Hi everyone, and welcome to this video where I will be talking you through 3 top tips for success at A-Level English Language and the Combined Literature and Language course. Now, I've taught these courses and have also been an examiner for this subject for a number of years, and I want to share with you my insight so you avoid making the mistakes that I see most often from students. So tip number 1 is don't forget to read the information you are given about the text in an exam. And this is particularly important for any unseen texts. On the screen here, I have 3 texts that have come up in the exams in the past, one taken from Edexcel, one from OCR, and one from AQA. And you can see all of them have some kind of information on the text before they have the actual text. Now, quite often students launch straight into reading the text and forget about this bit completely, which can mean they completely misunderstand the purpose, audience, or genre of the text. This can result in their answers not being accurate, and sometimes students speculate on who the audience or what the purpose is, even though they're actually given this information to start with. I know the pressure of exam timings can get to students, but the best thing you can do is take a moment to process the information you've been given and what this means before you launch into reading or writing about the text. Tip number 2 then is to think about how your paper is going to be marked and the examiner who is marking it. In the past, when I've been an examiner, I get sent a certain amount of papers to mark, usually around 400 to 500 scripts, and I'll mark them by logging into a system online and seeing a scanned in copy of the script pop up on my screen for me to read, just like this one here. I have to click through page by page, so the next page might look like this, and at the end I put what mark I would give it. Most often the examiners will be teachers who are still working full time and are marking on the side of this when they have a chance. So you want to make it as easy as possible for them to award you marks. It's very unlikely they'll spend ages looking at your work, as your own classroom teachers might do, and they won't reread sections to try and find you marks. So you need to make sure your writing is as clear as possible with clear points at the start of paragraphs. Again, one other thing a lot of students tend to do in exams, if they've left something out or they have time at the end and want to go back and add to some of their points, is they put an asterisk somewhere in their text and then they add their extra point at the very bottom of the exam. It's very unlikely an examiner will click through all the scanned in pages to reread your work with an asterisk next to it and then go back and reread the rest in the order you want them to. So be very mindful of this. And it goes without saying, but if you are someone with messy handwriting, you need to make sure your words are as legible as possible, as examiners won't spend time trying to figure out what your words mean. So be very mindful of the examiner who will be looking at your work and how you want to make it as easy as possible for them to follow your writing and to award you marks. My final tip then, and this is probably the most important one when it comes to English language, is that subject terminology counts for a lot. It's mentioned in almost every mark scheme and is something that at A-level you should be using naturally in your work. Now, if this is something you struggle with, I've put up on the screen some simple words and phrases that are easy to get into your writing. For example, lexis just means the words used. Syntax is the order of the words, so this is particularly useful if a speaker or writer has ordered their language in an unusual way, and you can make a comment about this. Then we have post-modified and pre-modified noun and verb phrases, which essentially just means you're looking for the main word in a sentence, and if it is a verb or a noun, you're then looking for if any describing words have been put before or after it, which would make it a post or pre-modified phrase, and what you can say about this language choice. Finally, I have modal verbs, declarative sentences, and discourse markers. And if you aren't familiar with these, you can look at the videos I've made on these terms. Using just a few extra subject terminology words in your work can really help your answer to sound academic and show what you've learnt on this course. Thinking back to tip number 2 though, make sure you don't spend time explaining what these words mean, which is what some students tend to do, as the examiner will be an English teacher or someone who knows the course very well, and therefore they'll be very familiar with these terms already. You want to show off your understanding of the text and use these words to help with your analysis. That is what's going to get you marks. So those are my 3 top tips for success. Number 1, read the information you're given at the top of the extracts. Number 2, make your answers as clear as possible to follow. And number 3, use subject terminology wherever possible. I hope this video was useful, and please let me know in the comments anything else you feel you need to know to be successful in your exams.